I honestly have no idea why more people aren't talking about this lens.
I'll be in Wisconsin, where my childhood was found. I've been talking about getting out of town, or out to the mountains.
So the Thypoch Simera 28mm f1.4 is a fascinating lens. I have so many thoughts filling up my tiny little brain, so let's get into it. Straight off of eyeball surgery, I know I look a little bit creepy in recovery, but you should have seen me 2 weeks ago. First and foremost, let's get the disclaimer out of the way. This video is not sponsored by Thypoch in any way. I spent my hard-earned Benjamins on this lens because I was really interested in it. I was not really, and still am not really, planning on keeping it. I just found it really fascinating. So let me start off by saying, from an image quality perspective, this might be one of my favorite lenses of all time, which is crazy to say. Not because it's the smallest or the sharpest or the best design. In fact, it's probably in spite of all of that. From an image quality standpoint, this lens, as the kids say, slays. I think that this is honestly what I chase when I look for something to go into my kit, is something different, something special, and that's what this is. And I'm not gonna sit here and be the guy that, you know, takes pictures of charts comparing sharpness and chromatic aberration and things like that. And that's not to say the Thypoch isn't sharp. The Thypoch is sharp. I probably wouldn't call it clinical. I probably wouldn't call it modern. It honestly reminds me of like the 50mm Summicrons, the early ones, the rigid or the dual range. It's certainly sharp enough, but for me, it really is the look, the things that words can't convey. I think that's where this lens truly holds its value. To me, it screams cinema, and I feel like not only am I swooned by the photos that it produces, but I think it would make a very special video lens as well. Ergonomics withstanding, we'll get into that a bit later, but the fact that it isn't full of heavy contrast, and the roll off from like the shadows to the highlights, it's so smooth. It handles chromatic aberrations impeccably well. It really is just kind of like everything I love about great lenses with unique and sweet characteristics. You know, it comes with metal caps front and back. It also comes with a hood with a cap, both metal as well. I find that a lot of third-party lenses use metal caps, which is weird. I don't know. I don't love metal caps. I just feel like the handling is like dangerous or something, and they probably protects the lens better. In terms of the filter size, it's 49mm, which is great. I have a bunch of those from my Q2M. And I guess I'll just talk a little bit about the build quality and design next, because this is where I feel very sort of confused or like conflicted. I've never actually had such conflicting feelings about a piece of camera gear before. I think I can usually tell almost immediately whether or not I like it or I don't like it. I guess I've been surprised before, but with this lens in particular, I feel like there's so many things that I don't love about it, but at the same time, I love those very same things. And maybe that's just innovation. So let's start with the build quality. I think this lens is built very well. It's definitely not built poorly, but I guess what I'll say about it is that it doesn't feel as premium as like a Voigtlander lens, for example, or even, to be honest, some of my TT Artisan lenses. It feels really good in the hands, and I think it's built very well. It's made of brass, which I love, but it just doesn't feel premium. And I don't know, it just feels a little different to me. I don't know what it is, but I can't put my finger on it exactly. I also really dislike the markings on this lens. I feel like they look like stickers, which, I mean, I know you're getting sort of a budget lens, but I just feel like that's such a small little detail that you could just take the time to get right, and it would make it feel a lot better for me, for, I guess, a snob. Let's dive into the lens design, because I really think this is the main sort of area that I want to focus on, and the thing that I find conflicting. Do I love it? Do I not love it? As I sit here right now, I genuinely don't know. I definitely love an aperture that declicks. I think that it makes it usable for photos and video, which is great. Let's just take a moment and listen. It's so satisfying, this declicking mechanism. The knurled focus ring, I think it's called knurled focus ring, whatever. The focus ring and the Tabby McTaberson with the infinity lock here. It feels very familiar to my rigid design, and I've really grown to love this. I don't know why, I just think it feels nice, a little nubby. But I think I'm the minority in that, so take that with a grain of salt. The focus distance scale, I don't know if that's what it's called, but the distance scale, it differs from sort of traditional scale markings in that these are usually like painted lines that indicate across the different aperture ranges, you know, what your depth of field is. But the Thypoch, it has these little kind of red diddlies that move into these dots as you go across the aperture range. I've read online some people say that it might be an entryway for dust, but I really, personally, I don't think that will be a problem. I don't think it's going to be a huge factor. I don't think the little dust bunnies are coming for you. And I actually appreciate that they've departed from sort of the typical traditions of Leica design. They took a decent sized swing with this one, and I kind of wish more lens manufacturers would sort of, diverge a little bit from the traditional design. And I know that sounds crazy, considering that the Leica design is what we all love, but I just like to see manufacturers trying new things. One thing to note is this focus scale in the light, it's kind of hard to see. You can't really tell if it's lit up red or not. I don't think that's a huge deal because I'm mostly using it out on the street anyways when I zone focus, and to be honest, once I kind of get the feel for a lens, I don't even look at the focus scale anymore because I just go by feeling. One thing I didn't like about the 28mm Voigtlander Ultron version 2 that I used to own was that it focused down to 0.5 meters, which I liked, but it made zone focusing a little bit difficult on the street because my camera's only focused to 0.7 meters, and it just was awkward. I couldn't get the right feel for zone focusing, which I feel like that's probably more of a me thing, to be honest, but it is something that I personally just couldn't get used to. And the amazing thing about this lens is that even though it focuses closer, I think at 0.4 meters, which is great for people who use live view, etc., but the best part is that it has sort of a soft stop at 0.7 meters to let you know that you've reached 0.7 meters and then you can continue on if you want to get closer. To me, I feel like on the street, this lens should be easier to use than, say, the Ultron, or even, I think the new Nocton suffers. Nocton? I think the new Nocton suffers from the same design flaw. I think it's a design flaw, and Thypoch has solved it. Zone focusing would be better on the Thypoch than any of the current 28mm Voigtlander lenses, in my opinion, and this to me is a big deal. The Thypoch also has an interesting aperture adjustment range, which I don't know if it's common or uncommon, but it feels uncommon in the Leica world. From f1.4 to 5.6, you're able to stop down in third stop increments, and then from 5.6 to f8, it's half stop increments, and then from f8 to f16, it's full stop increments. It's kind of weird. I don't really have an opinion. I will say that it's not what I'm used to. But some people will like it, others won't. I'm impartial. So now wrapping up the last 2 points with two things that I'm not very crazy about, and that's the travel distance from f4 to f16 on the aperture ring, and the travel distance when focusing from 0.4 meters to 0.7. Both of which just seem like badly designed, and I could see it kind of being an issue in different use cases, especially related to like shooting video. This aperture from f8 to f16, it's such a short distance that it's hard to really kind of nail it, and particularly in the close focusing range, it's such a short distance from 0.4 to 0.7. I would just like to see it be a little bit longer so you can be a little bit more precise. So what are my final thoughts about this lens? Here's what I would say, is that the image quality is superb. Honestly, it's one of my favorite lenses, definitely that I've used in a while. The build and design is interesting, I will say. I like the innovation. It's big for sure, but to be honest, I think most people looking for a fast 28mm lens will be okay with the size because they're all sort of big. Anything faster than f2 is going to be big. Build quality, it's good. It doesn't feel premium like my Ultron version 2 did from Voigtlander or any of my Leica lenses, but it still feels really, really good. Like, it doesn't feel like a cheap lens. And like, I also think sometimes you have to put it into perspective. I have a bunch of Sony lenses that I've had for, you know, over 5 years, and they're still completely in perfect working order, and they've been used and abused as well. And so I think this lens is definitely built better than those lenses. So that's something to actually think about. I'm a little bit of a snob when it comes to build quality, and I will openly admit that. But at the end of the day, this lens is built good. Design-wise, I feel like they probably skimped in some areas that I probably wouldn't have skimped in. Why not take the extra time and money to just have better markings on your lens, for example? But I really do like the innovation, as I've said, about this lens. I really like that they're trying something new, and I think this focus scale will be definitely like the Thypoch stamp. And it's nice to see a manufacturer doing something different and straying away from that traditional design. Honestly, I think overall for the money, this lens can't be beat. Even the new Voigtlander Noctin, it looks like an amazing lens, but it's more expensive. I think a lot of the people that aren't trying to shell over, like, whatever it is, $5,000 for a 28mm Leica Summilux will either be interested in the Thypoch or the Noctin. If it were me, I would probably go for the Ultron version 2, but between the Thypoch and the Noctin, I think it would be a difficult choice. I think if you really value build quality and are happy to pay a little bit extra for that, the Noctin is the right choice. I really value build quality, especially in third-party lenses. I feel like when they're well designed and well built and premium feeling, you feel more justified leaving the Leica equivalent behind. I also really find the missing soft stop in the Voigtlander lenses a real drawback for me personally. I just find that 28mm lenses should be able to zone focus very easily, and I just didn't like having to think harder. And with the Thypoch, you know, I really love that it has that soft stop so that I can just get a feel for it. I know that that's 0.7, and I just don't have to think as hard. I don't know. I think it's a me thing, but it is something that I've just noticed. I think also if you really value optical quality and love a lens that has a more unique and special look, I'd choose the Thypoch. I have not used the Voigtlander Noctin, and I bet the optics of it are amazing. I have just always found that Voigtlander lenses, for me, always look a little bit more modern than sort of unique. I don't know. Take that for what it is. Lots of people will like that about Voigtlanders. For me, I just like the optical charm of this lens. I will give this my full recommendation. I know I said that it doesn't feel premium, but I feel like that's very snobbish of me. It feels very, very good. And it's definitely a great value for the money. And despite Thypoch ghosting me, I can definitely say that I recommend this lens. I will put a link in the description below if you want to purchase this lens. Voigtlander, I would love to try the Noctin. I would love to sort of get it in my hands and have a feel for it, but I'm not going to buy it, I don't think, unless I really like it. You could send it to me, I could try it out, and maybe I'll like it. I would love to see how it compares to this. I really would. So, yeah, that's it. That's all. Thanks for watching.